Peace and blessings to you. Welcome. Welcome to the worship space at High Country, UCC. My name is Tamara, and I have the good fortune to be the pastor here. Welcome to our worship service. As the standout trio just played All Things Bright and Beautiful, that totally is the foundational theme of our worship today. In a time of pandemic, in a time of wondering what's going to happen in the fall, as news reports come and go and conflicts are arising, we seek to know beauty. That may seem just a little bit counterintuitive, and yet the essence of all things is beauty, and we need ways to tap in to an essence that literally will sustain us and nourish us as we wake up and we face a new day. I'm going to invite us this day as we imagine all things that are blooming here in the high country of western North Carolina. We see the rhododendron and we see the daylilies and the daisies, and too often I think we ask questions of, well, why these and not some other flowers? Why orange instead of pink? Why pink instead of white? Well, I think there is diversity in all things. And when we understand the beauty that is in all things, we totally understand the diversity of the Holy Creator in making us. And each Sunday we gather, we say, you are welcome here regardless of whether there's money in your pockets, regardless of your sexuality or your gender or your skin color or your age or your nationality or even your political flavor. We say you are welcome here. For we know that in the diversity of all things that there is beauty there. And so today I'm going to invite us to let go of that question, why? And just attempt to let our ego go and explore the divine essence that is beauty. For that question, why, I think too often, as we were little, we began to ask that about everything. Why do the plates go there? Why do you put the fork on the left side of the plate? Why do we have milk for supper? And our parents eventually would get just done, and they would say, because I said so. Or because that's the way it is. I'm going to invite us today. If you want to ask that question, why, you hear this answer from the Holy Creator, the beloved, the great divine God, Yahweh. Because I love you. because you are the beloved. Because in all things there is a divine essence that at its very core is beauty. So let us go in search of that answer. Come, worship with us. May your spirits be open to the beauty, the belovedness that is you. Let us worship together.
One thing I ask of you, divine goodness, one thing I seek, that I may dwell in your house all the days of my life, to gaze on your beauty and to meditate in your temple. In the beginning, the Creator was beguiled by beauty, and so set in motion a world of immense beauty and goodness. All beings are beautiful, full of the essence of sacred worth, sensed not by the eyes, but with the Spirit.
The beauty of a world without a why. The beauty in other beings exists completely for itself, not for any other purpose than that. The joy of existence is the purpose of life. One more time we ask, are you ready this week to let go of expectations? Divine goodness, prepare our spirits to see and be beguiled by the beauty of all life. Amen.
When we accept the non-utilitarian goodness of life, a world that doesn't need a why, we tune into the raw delight in the world. Beauty decenters our ego by helping us realize that life is its own justification. And we let go of how everything relates to us, serves us, and benefits us. And we begin to appreciate all things for their own worth and beauty. And our desire for their flourishing intensifies. When we turn this idea into ourselves, we can let go of the expectations of others and the societal standards of beauty in the world in regard to our own worth. Really powerful words for this difficult time.
For the beauty of the earth, for the glory of the skies, for the love which from our birth over and around us lies. God of all, to thee we raise this our hymn of grateful praise.
Good morning, church family. It's been a while since I've seen your faces. And I just want you to know that I miss all of you tremendously. Divine goodness, Holy One, pause us for this moment. Bear us up in this time. Hold us for eternity. We tune our spirits into the truth, and we begin to let go of our expectations. We allow all beings the fulfillment of their own beauty. And all the people say, Amen. God bless you all.
Hello from High Country UCC Kids Connection. We got a package today, and this tag says that inside this package is something that reflects one of the most beautiful things on earth. Let's see what it is. Whoa, it's a mirror. Wow. If you have a mirror at your house, get one now and look into it. I can see myself, but I can't see you. Can you see me in your mirror? I guess a mirror is just for showing our own reflection. Now, it's good that we have a mirror today to see our reflection, because we're going to read some scripture that is like a love letter from God. And the love letter says, look at how beautiful you are. You do not have to look or be like anyone else. You do not have to sound like anybody else. You do not have to think like anybody else. Now, I know that's hard to believe. It's hard for us adults to believe that too, but it is true, and you can trust that no matter how unique and different you are from anybody else, you are exactly what you're supposed to be. And God calls you beautiful. You don't have to try to be beautiful. You just are, period. So this week, I'm inviting you to make a large heart and stick it on your bathroom window or mirror, and then when you brush your teeth or wash your face, brush your hair, you can see yourself in this. And remember that you are loved by God, that you are unique, that you are exactly what you're supposed to be. I have a song for you, and I'd like you to join me at the piano. I am amazing, you are amazing, I am filled with beauty, you are filled with beauty, and God loves me, and God loves you, like crazy, we are amazing.
Our text today comes from the Song of Songs, which is biblical poetry at its most lush. In this text, adoration for another is full of metaphors from nature. The voice is like the coo of a dove. The curve of the landscape is seen as the curve of the body. Perhaps even the hills and mountains are the curve of the beloved Creator, and our bodies are to be seen as the beautiful handiwork of the same artisan of all life. So here in this passage for today, hear the culminating conclusion that there is no flaw in the utter beauty, which is the subject of adoration. This does not mean that perfection is the goal, but that there is no flaw in imperfection. And the beauty of the one beheld is not dependent on the judgment of the beholder. So open your hearts and enter into this Lectio Divina, allowing judgment to suspend, to lift, to dissipate, so that we might adore all things, even ourselves, as the dearest to whom this letter is addressed.
Look at you, so beautiful, my dearest. Look at you, so beautiful. Look at your eyes, sweet as doves, behind the veil that your hair makes, as it cascades from your head like a flock of young goats, black ones bounding down off Mount Gilead, and your teeth are sheep, white as the day they were born, or newly shorn and freshly washed, each with its perfect mate. Not one of them is alone. Why should we be? And the lips of that lovely mouth, a ribbon of scarlet, your temples behind that veil glow like halves of a fleshly sliced pomegranate, and your neck has the grace of David's tower, with its jewels hung around it like the shields of 1,000 warriors, and your breasts like the twin fawns of a gazelle hiding among the lilies. All my nights till the sun comes chasing its shadows, let me play in these perfumed hills, these mountains scented with myrrh. You are utterly beautiful, my dearest. There's not a single flaw in you.
Creator, bless this time we have together. May our words and our thoughts be pleasing to you and work to uplift your people. Amen. Amen. Good morning, everyone. This morning, well, it's nighttime for us, but morning for you all watching this. We are talking to Reverend Darnie Chenard. She is a close friend. I'm so excited to have her here. She is an MDiv from Wake Forest Divinity. We went to school together. That's how we met. She has training in pastoral care and in chaplaincy. She's been a pastoral resident and has worked for a long time with youth camps and with young adults in spiritual formation and older adults in spiritual formation. So she has a lot to add to this conversation this morning. And specifically, I asked her to be here because this idea of the contemplative life and reflection and things like that really reminds me of you, Darnisha, because you do a lot of journaling and reflection, and I feel like you have gained a lot from that. And I don't want to put too many words in your mouth, but I feel like that's something that really you excel in, where I'm not as good at sitting and being slow. Would you say that you've like gained things from that over the years?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, I remember recently we were talking, and you were able to put into words like something that I never realized that I always do. I was telling you I started journaling again, and you're like, Bernicia, no matter what you're doing, you always find your way back to you. And I guess when you put it like that beautifully, like you're like, oh, that's deep. But then also like, oh, like I do that often. Like whenever I don't even realize sometimes when I'm off track, but then it's like my body just knows. And then all of a sudden it's like me, a pen, and like my journal, and then everything doesn't get perfect all of a sudden, but it kind of like starts to work its way out. I'm able to kind of see things from different perspectives. So yeah, that and like, I don't know. I guess I just never knew that I did that. I just kind of came so naturally to me.
Yeah, and that's beautiful. I think I have to work a little harder at those kinds of things, you know, getting back to myself and reminding myself to slow down and things. So this season of our worship has been a good gift to me to kind of remind me to do those kinds of things while also staying engaged. Because this season has also been really hectic too for all of us. You know, a lot of things going on in the world that we're engaging in. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more today. But this morning, our worship is focused on beauty for its own sake. So beauty with no like meaning for having beauty, or no reason for having that beauty. It's just beautiful. And I think that's a cool thing. I'm going to read this quote that kind of we opened up worship with so we can start our time together and kind of ground us a little bit. At the beginning of worship, it said, as we let go of how everything relates to us, serves us, benefits us, we begin to appreciate all things for their own worth and beauty, and our desire for their flourishing intensifies. So in this world where, you know, everything feels like it's about utility, what things can do for us, what place do you think this has, this like beauty, and the beauty that we see really has for our world?
So when I first read that quote, I was like thinking, I recently watched, I'm very late, I can be very open and honest and vulnerable and say I just got Netflix at the beginning of this year. So I'm so behind. So I'm finally watching all the documentaries that everyone watched years ago. So I recently watched What the Health, and it's about this whole like environmentalist approach to like basically why we should all be vegan, all this stuff. I still like eat meat. It didn't work on me, but but it's interesting because one of the perspectives in the documentary, he's talking a lot about like, you know, the lives of the animals that we're consuming, or the animal byproducts that we're consuming. And I thought of that stuff before, but then I guess seeing it from a different perspective, I was kind of like, oh, like the lives of these animals does matter. Like me realizing that I'm going to be eating this meat or eating this animal byproduct, like cheese or butter or whatever, or honey or whatever the animal or whatever the product might be. It's important that life had a good life, that creature. And I guess I never really thought of it. So when I first read it, like that documentary came to my mind of like, how am I like having an impact on the world around me? And then I started to think about like, what does that look like on a easier to understand scale, like a little bit of a microcosm level, because not everyone's going to go vegan. I didn't, and I doubt everyone who watches that documentary will. But it made me also think of like how everyone used to make jokes, like memes and stuff, like, oh, like it's Thanksgiving, I'm getting ready, you know, to put on my outfit for the living room to go have dinner with my family. It's like
stretchy pants.
Yeah, it's stretchy pants. But now we're all doing that every day because of the pandemic that we're in. We're all trying our best to stay home as often as possible, leaving the house only for essentials, or like, you know, getting our exercise when it's necessary and safe. But mainly we're just staying in. So then I thought of it like, man, we're doing this whole like vanity for vanity's sake. There's no utility to it at this point. Like when we're getting ready, it's literally just to like sit, like what I'm doing right now. This is what all of us are doing all day. I mean, yeah. Like being more active, but yeah, it's like, it's kind of like this whole new perspective of it that I never would have considered if we weren't in like the larger scale, like global pandemic that we were in right now.
Yeah. I find myself each morning kind of getting ready for me. So I'm like, what am I comfortable in? What makes me feel productive? So like, you know, stretchy pants, yoga pants were my jam for the first couple weeks. And then I was like, oh, I don't feel productive in this. And wearing things that like more were for me. But I think that's a huge, I'm motivated mostly when I go to work about like looking professional and looking a certain way. And that aesthetic idea of beauty comes in there, that it's like, I kind of have to look nice and pleasing to other people because I'm working with other people. But yeah, that hits me a different way now that we're like home and we're doing this for ourselves rather than others. And that's a huge thing. I also wondered, we were talking about this a little bit earlier, like in a world where there are beauty standards that are so specific, leaning one way, how do we shake those specific ideas of beauty? How do we engage the world in beauty and see that beauty in others, and not feel like it has to fit into a certain box? Yeah, and I don't know exactly what the answer to that is, but I'm going to leave it to you to maybe give me a little bit of insight.
So I don't know how I would, I guess I don't know how to like answer that. I can only answer it for like, I still feel like I see the beauty in other people, and my flaw is that whole comparison aspect to it. It's like me trying to figure out like, how do I see the beauty in this one person without feeling like I'm lacking in something. So for me, it's more of a, I can, not because I'm like so wonderfully selfless all the time, but it's a little bit easier for me to see that beauty and extend that grace, and that seeing that imago Dei, seeing that image of God in everyone that I see. But then there's like a level of criticism that comes with it, but it's always imparted on myself. So for me, it's more like a, how do I honor the divine in this person and see that person as beautiful without it negating or taking away from me? That's kind of what I've been trying to, I guess it's been my biggest hurdle in these past like few months. I've been doing a lot of like personal and internal reflection. As you can see, I wear my hair natural. And I think it was like a month or so ago, I decided that I wanted to straighten my hair. Every once in a while, I find myself with like 5 hours on my hands, and I'm like, might as well do this. What else am I gonna do? So I decided to like, straighten my hair, and was like, it took forever. It looked good. And then I realized like at the end of it, I was like, why did I do this? And I realized I wasn't doing it because I wanted to. I had seen stuff on the internet. I was hoping to like, I don't know, I saw something in someone else that I wished that I had in myself. And because I can't change everything about me, but I can change my hair. And it's kind of like, what does that mean? So I really had to sit with myself, and I was kind of like, well, you already did it. That took forever. Like, you're not going to just like go and wash your hair and get the straightness out of it, because we're not going to waste our time twice. No. So, but it kind of made me like really figure out like, if I'm going to be getting ready every day, or how many ever days of the week you want to get ready, if I'm going to be doing it, it has to be for me, because there's so many other aspects and layers to like our days now that evolve and revolve around us, like doing for others, like wearing your mask when you go out in public isn't just for you, it's for others. So it's like, if I'm going to do something for me, I need to make sure it's really for me. Like, I need to really sit down and make sure that I'm doing this and I'm spending my free time, that's like my me time, that I'm doing it in a way that makes me feel like I am really cultivating the me that I'm comfortable with, that makes me feel good in all the levels that I deserve.
Yeah, and that's good. I think that comparison game is so real. And I think there's also a lot ingrained in us about beauty. So I'm especially aware as we have kind of transitioned out of Pride Month, but I don't want to get too far away from it, that specifically queer folks have had a lot of standards put upon them for a long time. And especially, Black folks have had a lot of standards put on them. Like, as you're explaining, with your natural hair and things like that, there's so many standards. And then there's so much of that ingrained within us. White supremacy and those kinds of things come out when we're talking about beauty standards. Homophobia, queerphobia, transphobia, all come out when we're talking about our beauty standards. And I think this idea of contemplation, of seeing beauty for what it is, of being able to pick out that beauty in other things and other people, is so important to break down those structures also within us.
Yeah.
and to make us better people and to help us grow into, I think, a society where we really truly see people as worthy and see their worth, and we're fighting alongside them, and we're, you know, extending rights, just so many different, I mean, it could go on for a long time, you know, but I think that beauty is really helping us fight those structures too within ourselves, which is a long game.
Oh, super. Like, it's one of those things, like, you have to be in it for the long game. And it's so easy to be in it for the long game for other people when it's you. I don't know, it's exhausting because you're one of the only people that you like wake up to and see every day.
Yeah.
You can't escape yourself. And if you're not gonna fight for yourself, if you're not gonna be in it for the long game, it's like, it can get exhausting. It's gonna catch up to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Whew, yeah. So I, as we talk about that and shift, I feel like we've shifted a little bit, which is great. You know, talking about contemplation, my hardest thing when we talk about this kind of contemplative life, especially like desert mothers and desert fathers of like contemplation, where you went away from everybody else and kind of secluded yourself and like had this experience, which I think is valuable in some ways, but to me, it feels like it pushes you to disengagement sometimes, you know, that it's not, you end up not engaging in the world around you because you're doing so much in contemplation, I guess. Or maybe that's just a fear that I have of contemplation, is that it pushes me to disengage. So how do we balance those two things of contemplation and recognizing, you know, the beauty within ourselves, beauty within others, but also the engagement with the world around us too?
So this is where we're very different. You're an extrovert.
That is so true.
And I'm an introvert. So not engaging with others for a little bit is kind of okay with me. But I guess for me, it's one of those, I guess my only response would be, is not engaging with others like that bad, if it means like you reassembling who you are. I know that I've gone through periods of my life where I felt like not only was I pouring from an empty cup, but I was pouring from a cup that had already been shattered. So you can't pour from that. You got to piece it back together. And if I'm continuously trying to give and engage, I still have shards of myself everywhere. And you really need to take that time sometimes, you know, just really to reassemble yourself, figure out what you need before you can let other people pour into you, and before you can pour out in a way that's safe. Yeah, so I just think it's really important that we do that.
That hit me hard. So just so you know, I was like, oh.
But yeah, it's just one of those times where it's kind of like, just because you're taking time for you and you're not engaging for a moment, that's okay, because a lot of the things that we're talking about, like seeing the beauty in others, but also like the systemic racism and stuff like that, this stuff isn't moments, these are movements. All this stuff is going to be around for a while. These things aren't going to end anytime soon. Like you take a few days for yourself, like whatever Sabbath looks like to you, like whether it's, you know, a few hours a day, or whether it's 1 hour a day, or whether it's like maybe only like half a day a week, whatever that looks like for you, like you get to decide that. Because when you engage with other people, by you, I don't mean like general, I mean like general you, but also like personally me as well, from my experience, like I want it to be authentic. I don't want to show up in a way that is disingenuous, or I feel like I am being a version of myself that I wouldn't want repeated back to me. It's a person that I want to meet over and over again. So I want to make sure that I have all of myself together, so that way when I'm engaging, or I'm standing up for this or being present for that, it's in a way that's going to be helpful for the community at large. At least that's my biggest hope. I hope it is when I show up. Yeah,
I love that we can't engage, you know, you can't pour from an empty cup or shattered cup. That hits me hard, because I feel like during this pandemic, I feel like a lot of our folks have felt like this, just feeling overwhelmed with what's going on in general, and not feeling like, especially a lot of the activists I know in Boone and things, that have felt like they need to keep engaging. And that gets really, I think that takes away from yourself and starts breaking down who you are. And I think you also, I want to say this the right way, so I'm going to think for a second, but I think when you are so deep in that engagement, sometimes you forget all of the beauty around you, if that makes sense. You know, you're listening to the news all the time. You know, I had to turn it off. Like, I'm trying to stay engaged in what's happening, but like, I cannot watch the nightly news like my parents do. Like, good for them that they can engage like that. But to me, that so much reminds me of all of the, I guess, the ugly that there can be, and that almost pushes me to not be able to see beauty in others and be part of this ongoing movement. And I think, I just think that there's, you know, when there's beauty, I said this earlier, I don't want this to be a binary kind of thing, but when there's beauty, there's always ugly too. And so how do we balance being able to call out the ugly, the stuff that's not committed to flourishing and not good for us, while also seeing the beauty in things and noticing those things. So I don't know if you want to speak on that.
I was telling you earlier about an example. So I am living in Virginia, for those watching.
I forgot to say that, yeah.
So I am in Richmond, Virginia. So we have this street in Richmond called Monument Avenue that is laden with monuments to people of the Confederacy. It has been viewed as problematic for a long time. And one of the statues was, thanks to our mayor of Richmond, was removed yesterday. There's been a petition within a certain amount of days. I think they're going to remove all of the statues, or as many as they can within those amount of days. And the statue that they removed yesterday, so Wednesday, was of Stonewall Jackson. It went up in the year 1919. So I don't know, math isn't my expertise, but that wasn't when the Civil War ended. It was way after. So obviously it went up for very different reasons than some people like to claim is rooted in their heritage as the reasons why it originally gone up. There was footage all over the news of like the people who have been protesting, trying to, like, you know, wanting to witness this moment. People were protesting, people were just there viewing. And there was this young man who went up there, like this young white man went up there with like a flag, like super in support of the Confederacy, weeping because this statue was being taken down, like weeping. And there were some people who were like, dude, get out. There were some curse words thrown. There were people who were like, get him out of here. And people were like beginning to close in on him. And then there were people like, obviously a part of the Black Lives Matter movement, who stood in between this young white man and the people that were trying to like encroach on him, and like stood in between him and like we're like a bodyguard and we're like, no, give him space. He's allowed to be upset. And that just like, even just like, again, I wasn't there. I just saw the footage of it on the news, which I'm glad for newscasters showing news that's so honest in both sides. And I couldn't imagine being able to have that much grace in a moment that could have been so like viewed in like the grand scheme of history as like a really ugly moment. This person defending something that was so, that has so many layers of hatred to it than it does anything positive. And then in that moment, people literally protected him from other people saying, hey, like, let's let him have this moment. Let's let him be safe. And then they allowed the police to like safely escort this man away from that, like what could have been like a mob. Then the statue was removed and everything was great. But like, it was one of those moments where you're like, oh, there was a moment of beauty in something that was terribly ugly. Like defending that was just, I guess, I don't know. You can decide whether or not you want to keep this. But like, it was kind of an atrocious moment. And I know that's a strong word, but I can't think of, as someone who's grown up here, was raised thinking that was, I don't know, it's just a really nice road, Monument Avenue. It has all the biggest, prettiest houses. They're all in this like historical district. And it's like having all these statues like erected in that, it's just layers of like systemic racism. I can't think of a single Black person I've ever seen live in a house that they owned on Monument Avenue. So it's like the layers of it all. And then to have something like that so like to have all of it like culminate to this one moment and to have it all happen was just, I don't know, again, not to reinforce the binary that you said you didn't want to have, but it's also like, it just shows the two kind of work in tandem together to spread light to the grandness of the situation.
Yeah, and I think I hope that for that person, for all of those people there, that they think of this too as like this beauty as this process. This is a longer process. This is not today, like you said, it's a movement. This is longer. And that search for beauty, I think, is going to be integral to that person moving forward. And maybe the beauty in that moment was those people giving this guy space, and that he will learn from that and seek out more beauty. You know, I just think that there are ways that we can grow into beauty too, that it doesn't have to just be ugly, and there's not, that's not stagnant. You know, we can grow into beauty and seeing beauty and understanding things newly. Like we said earlier, the systems that fight against us seeing beauty is something we have to keep pushing against. So yeah, thank you for that example. That was really powerful. Yeah. So as we, I guess, kind of wrap up our time, is there anything else that's on your mind with this that you were kind of thinking that we didn't get to, and that, you know, makes your heart sing a little bit?
The original, like some of the questions that we had like kind of talked about, or you said would be like hypothetical, and I feel like we kind of like danced over it, but I guess just to like talk more about it, I really think this is like important work that can't always happen like in front of everyone. Yes, I gave an example of it happening like in front and like on the front lines, but I think this is a lot of behind the scenes work, and I think that's probably what makes it the hardest and probably the least appealing, because like no one wants to do the behind the scenes. Everyone wants the instant gratification, especially like as a millennial. And then I know Gen Z, they're pretty much like us, except with better technology. No need to talk about how it took me forever to log onto the Zoom call, but like older millennial. But it's like one of those things where that's behind the scenes work. And I think the social media aspect of it is that I'm at least perceiving is a lot of people are trying to do that behind the scenes work on the front lines. And then I'm just kind of wondering, like how genuine is that? Like how genuine is that person really planning to show up? Like, you know, trying to figure out what is that balance, that fine line, that dance between doing that behind the scenes work, holding yourself accountable and holding others accountable, but also not taking up space that's not meant for you, and allowing your platform to be maybe you're constantly sharing other people's information and sharing other things, but not making it about you in a way that's self-edifying, that takes away from other people. So just kind of something to, I don't have an answer to that. It's just something I'm kind of just thinking about, like something to chew on. Like, what does that look like for us to do the behind the scenes work, hold ourselves accountable in a way that's not self-edifying?
Yeah, I think that pushes against me, or that pushes me a little bit. Just because I was saying, you know, earlier, contemplation is hard for me. And so that quiet work, or that work on myself, can be hard sometimes too, just to sit with myself and go, what are these biases I have? What are these things that I really need to work on within myself and moving forward? And we often, the easy way is to kind of post it out there and kind of let people know that we're doing the work. But really, are we getting to the heart of it? Are we really, like you said, we're taking up space sometimes. I think of the black squares, which was a well-meaning thing.
Maybe.
I know I'm going to get controversial for a second, but I think of the black squares, you know, on that day, I forget what day it was exactly, but it was, I think, a well-meaning
Tuesday
thing.
or something like that.
Yeah, so it was like a well-meaning thing that it was like, let's black out, let's not post anything. But posting those things, putting that out there, was actually taking up a lot of space and a lot of a lot of the space for other folks to get their message out. And so how do we unknowingly, you know, speak over the beauty that's happening, or take over and just detract from the beauty that's going on, these movements, this work that's happening that people are, on the front lines of. How do we I think that's a big example of how we kind of talked over people instead of actually listening and doing the hard work, like you said, behind the scenes.
Yeah. That's like not the fun stuff.
No.
No one wants to do the not fun stuff, but it's that stuff that kind of helps you to step back and realize like the beauty in it all, realizing like all these people wanted to come together, but if we had all taken a collective moment and a collective breath, we could have figured out, like, we could have seen the beauty of everyone wanting to help, and we could have like redirected that energy into a way that would have helped more people. Of course, hindsight's 2020, but like there's going to be other things that we can do, and social media seems like it's going to be around for a while, so like we can like figure out how we can tweak it and like work it and use it in our favor, like how we can use our voices, our positionings, everything to benefit other people. Because I mean, I don't know, it's one of those things, it's so easy to say like in the light of day, because like literally the sun's shining and I can see the beauty like out my front window, like the deer walking around. But it's just one of those things where like there's so much beauty in this world and it's there. We just have to find ways to really like see it, feel it, and then appropriate ways to share it.
Yeah, absolutely. And for our folks who are in Boone, I see a lot of beauty in the work that Black and Boone is doing. We have a new organization that one of our friends has started, and is doing a lot of work in the community to do that kind of stuff, to say this is what we need and this is what brings beauty to our community. This is how we're moving forward to help the flourishing of lives here in the high country. And so I see a lot of beauty in that, and I think that's going to be some, I hope, hard work that we can go and do moving forward, and also the self-work. So thank you, Darnisha, for the help that you've done with our self-work today, and all of the things that you've offered this morning to kind of help us see a new way and see beauty.
Thank you for having me, Sarah.
Yeah, absolutely.
In our time of prayer today, I'm going to invite you to literally sit in this moment, allowing the resonance of these chimes to wash over you, the bird song to delight your spirit, the other sounds of nature to literally soak deep into your soul. Throughout these 5 weeks of being beguiled by beauty, we have been looking around to more deeply notice the fullness of life in all of its joys and its sorrows, its mundane moments as well as the poignant, the little victories as well as the immense tragedy. We are coming to know greater compassion by coming to care more deeply as we contemplate with more intention and awareness. Today we acknowledge the pain of judgment that comes with captivity to expectations that do not come from God. Instead, these expectations, they come from others and even from within ourselves. We find that we hold to standards that are ultimately not what true beauty or, quote, a beautiful life, end quote, is about. And so in this time of prayer, I invite you to open your hands upward on your lap. Allow all of these secular and worldly expectations to lift. Feel the heaviness of measuring up drift away from you. And as these expectations drift away, allow compassion for yourself to seep deep into your soul. And as that compassion seeps deep, by extension, allow it to blanket others. Who needs a word of kindness this day? Who needs a gift of a smile and acceptance this day? Who or what have you judged? What expectations are you letting go of now? How is your spirit nourished when you literally allow all the beauty around you as well as within you to wash over you? May all of our spirits come together as one, allowing ourselves to be the voice, the heart, the hands, and the feet of the holy. May the divine rule. Amen and amen.
Jesus, lover of my soul. Jesus, I will never let you go. You've shown me all the beauty of this world. Set my feet upon the rock, and now I know I love you. I need you. When I lose myself, you call me back to you. Redeemer, companion, friend, I will follow you until the very end. Jesus, lover of my soul. Jesus, you will never let me go. Calling me to see the beauty in my face of every person that I meet. I know
beauty that beguiles us is all around us and within us. It is diverse in ways beyond our own imagination. The divine beauty calls us to a life of acceptance, releasing those expectations that trap us in a cycle of spiritual blindness to worthiness. Instead, may we work for good because it is life-giving and good without expectation for certain outcomes. Therefore, we continue to practice over and over and over the teaching to love God, love ourselves, and to love our neighbors, so that the harmonies and the rhythms of our lives are able to make beautiful music. As we continue to wear masks, as we continue to smile with our eyes, as we continue to venture out into the world, may the outdoor picnics that are keeping us connected, even through physical distance, may we find grace in them. May we continue to see all the plants that are blooming. May we continue on our journey. And in this, may our grace spread. May our willingness to listen deep into the worlds and cultures beyond our own comfort and knowing beckon us into the heart, strength, and majesty of the Holy Creator. And so join with me as we dedicate all of these gifts and more to offer our own beauty to beguile. Generous and loving God, you have placed us in the most amazing circumstances. In the midst of the mysteries of the universe, the grandeur of earthly creation, in community with nature, and in intimate relation with each other. Bless us in our appreciation and enjoyment of all we have received, and bless these offerings given in gratitude that they might be used to tell of your goodness and spread the joy of life lived in your love. Bless these offerings on behalf of the ministries of this church and the loving care of the world. Amen and amen. We have gathered one more time around this table. We have broken open the Word, and we have had a diverse experience of what is beauty. From babies to hippos, from conversations and voices to amazing pictures and delightful music. I hope your soul has found an essence of beauty here. And as we move into this week, I may encourage you to act like a child and to cut out a heart and put it on your mirror. It's not only for children that we need to be reminded that we are loved and we are the beloved. And in the immense diversity of all things, hear these words of benediction. The world is so amazingly varied and beautiful. We are inviting you to seek wisdom at every turn and with every color, with every texture, with every diverse being. May you know that the steadfast love of God is with you every step of the way. Invite the companionship of the cosmic Christ to open your eyes to all that is within you. And may the infinite wisdom of the Holy Spirit continue to burn bright its fire, burning away the dross, so that you can see your beauty in all these things. May it be so this day, and the next, and the next. Amen and amen.